Which one? We have your standard average fill-in-the-blank 48 volt versus your standard average fill-in-the-blank 72 volt. Do you buy the more expensive 72 volt because more power? Or do you buy the cheaper 48 volt because you're gonna ditch that powertrain anyway and throw all the mods in it? So you'd think then it would make sense to buy the cheaper 48 volt version because otherwise it's the exact same. But is it really? With all these different offerings, different names, varieties, you might not know where to start, but I'm here to tell you that all of these bikes are exactly the same. Except when it comes to power, and actually I think it really just comes down to the battery in these two bikes, but who knows, maybe I'm wrong. Well, I'm wrong. So then let's find out how the battery in this bike performs against the battery in that one. And yeah, as you can plainly see, I'm wrong already because this bike in particular has had a few upgrades on it like the Supermoto kit, but thankfully it's really, there you go. It's really easy to convert. Let's start off with the most obvious difference in power between these, top speed.
And as we get there, because I think it's gonna take a while, we can also take a look at the acceleration between the 48 and the 72 volt. It's pretty obvious that the 72 volt has got a little bit more of that. But we are topped out at 93.5, it says, on the 48 volt. Actual 33. Okay, but what about the 72 volt? It says 54, but I know that's wrong. And yeah, it's less than expected, but it's actually not that bad. 49 miles an hour. We almost got to 50.
Even taking into account the overestimating dashboards in both of these bikes, it's pretty obvious that the 72 volt takes it, being about 30% faster than the little guy here. Now, voltage is one thing, but there is another difference, albeit a slight one, is the amp hours or the capacity of each of these bikes. 25 amp hours in this bike, 21 amp hours in this one. But surprisingly, they both claim a range of 50 miles. Again, these are both drastically overestimating, but to have the exact same range and the 48 volt here has 4 amp hours less, what's the real difference?
Well, let's find out. We're back on the 42 volt. We have the trip set. We have a full battery. How far can we go just poodling around the neighborhood? Poodling around? You know what I mean. And nothing fancy either. I mean, we'll do a couple of top speed runs, but other than that, we're just gonna be cruising. Start, stop traffic, the usual.
1 hour later.
We are at the 48 volt finish line, just barely making it home. Probably gonna have to walk it the last couple feet, but 19.1 miles. Thrilling stuff. But now on to the range test of the 72 volt. I hope this gets at least a little bit more than the 48 volt. But in the meantime, let's talk about the similarities between this and that 48 volt because I think there's one or two things that they have in common.
Seeing these two bikes side by side, it's pretty obvious to see why I would claim that the only difference between these two are the batteries inside. I mean, they have the same plastics, obviously they're different colors in this case, but they have the same frame, the same seats, the same brakes, the same display, the same handlebars, you get the point. But getting the Pro version here has some differences besides power. Most obvious being the wheels. They both have a 14-inch, but the Pro here has the big wheel kit, putting the 14 in the rear and the 17 in the front. While the 48 volt would have what I would consider the standard sizing, being the 14 in the front and having a 12-inch in the rear. This does change the overall fit to these bikes. While the frame and the seat and the general ergos are the exact same, the seat height is increased on the 72 volt with the bigger wheels. And by a good amount, this adds like 7 inches to the seat height, so if you're tall or over the age of 13, that really helps. It certainly helps me being 6 foot tall. What doesn't help, which is the same on both, is the foot peg location. While it's as low as possible on the frame, it still doesn't leave that much room for my legs. And because it's welded as low as possible on the frame, there's no real easy way to drop them down further. I'm trying to find things like extensions and stuff like that, but so far I've come up dry. So if you have any suggestions, let me know. All I know is that being tall means that these bikes get pretty cramped after a long ride. And speaking of a long ride, I wonder how that range test is going.
Well, you join me much later. It's still very cramped, and not because I've been riding so long that the sun is going down, but I actually took a break from riding this because it was touching 100 degrees today. But status update, we have just surpassed what the 48 volt did. We're past 19.1 miles total on this battery. Still showing 2 bars out of 5, so I think I have a little bit more left to go, and I guess we'll just see how long this thing can go beyond the 48 volt.
So there actually are some other differences between these bikes that are more substantial, like suspension, in particular with the front forks here, because the 48 volt actually has the smaller 39-42 millimeter forks, while the 42 volt here has the much bigger 45-48 millimeter forks. And having the bigger forks here is better because more fluid and stiffer springs, and bigger is better, right? There are good fork upgrades available for both of these bikes, although most of them are going to lean towards the smaller 39-42mm set, and I highly recommend taking a look at something like Voltron Watts' site. He has a lot of options available. I have a set of his on my Mototech 60V and it works really, really well. But like I said, there's not as many for the bigger forks, although this will take the RTR forks as a direct plug and play option, and you can add some stiffer springs from Electro & Co. from there. There's also differences to the suspension in the rear as well, although not as obvious. Like the rear shocks look basically the same. Maybe the 72 volts is a little bit bigger, but speaking of bigger, the swing arm on the 72 volt is a few inches longer than on the 48 volt because it needs to accommodate that big 14-inch rim. But it does make me wonder, would that 14-inch rim fit on the 48 volt as it is? Because then you would be able to just throw a big wheel kit onto the 48 volt bikes. Is that even possible? I don't know. Let's find out. Well, it's definitely a squeeze, same like it was for the RTR, but this actually works. A few other things to note, there is a difference in the axles. That has a 15mm axle, this has a 12mm axle, so right now it's a little janky in there, but I think some spacers, they make 12 to 15mm conversions, and then you should be fine.
But back to the range run, we're still out here, but we're coming to a close pretty fast. I'm topped out, really. Hoping I have just enough juice, just some little sippy sips to make my way home. But the odometer is showing 25.6 miles. We did pretty good. Oh boy, we're crawling, but it's moving. And it's moving faster than I can walk, so that's a good sign. It's dropping fast. We made it though. All right, grand total 26.9. I know it says 15.9, but I made sure to go exactly 10 miles the last time I took this out, but pretty good. So that means 4 extra amp hours in this battery got us, what, 6-7 miles added range? That's pretty good. That's actually a big difference. It's surprising with this difference compared to this one because they both say like 45 to 50 miles total, which I already know that's an overestimation, but that 4 amp hours difference does really equate to, I mean, typically amp hours are like to miles, so you would think that would add an extra 4 miles or so, but maybe it's because the speeds, relative speeds that we were doing with both of these bikes were about the same, so this one had less of a strain, so it got a couple extra miles. Pretty cool. But now it's time to finally peel the oranges, as it were, and see what lies underneath, starting with the batteries, which are most obviously different because that's what I theorized, but they look basically the exact same. They're the same size, same dimensions, same everything. It's just that this one is carrying 72 volts and 25 amp hours, and the other one is carrying 48 volts and 21 amp hours. But now it's time to test my theory that the only difference between these two bikes really underneath is just the batteries by first looking at the controllers. We know that the 72 volt here has an ND72300, but does the 48 volt have one too? Well, I'm wrong. Should have guessed when I saw the specs on the website that it runs at 70 amps. I was hoping that maybe it would have a little bit more room for improvement, but no, this has the 72240, which has a max line current of, you guessed it, 70 amps. Also a bit unfortunate when it comes to upgrading, because if you want to upgrade the battery, then you probably are going to want to upgrade the controller too. Final check on the inside is the motor. I was going to say that this should be the same, but if the controller isn't, who knows? I kind of hope they're the same because maybe the 48 volt has more information on what it actually is. I'm still unsure what these bikes come with stock, but it's most likely some kind of QS. Well, I'm wrong again. There's clearly a difference in the motors between these two bikes, and the sheer size difference with the 72 volts being so much bigger in every aspect. The front sprocket is bigger, the motor itself is longer, it's thicker, it's even got more numbers on it. So I guess I'm actually here to tell you that they aren't the same. They're mostly the same base, same appearances, but slightly different everything else. But that brings me back to my original question at the beginning of this video. Which do you buy? The immediate obvious answer is getting the 72 volt because it's got more where it counts. However, if you're of the modding mindset like me, then it might actually make more sense to get the 48 volt bike. Yes, it is slower and shorter and doesn't go as far, but it has the same platform, and that way you can actually save a couple $100 up front and put that towards your upgrades. But if it were me, I'd still take the 72 volt, and the deciding factor here are all the slight differences
advantages of this bike besides the drivetrain, because it has a lot of the things that I would want to upgrade on the 48 volt bike anyway, like thicker forks in the front, a longer swing arm in the rear, big wheel kit. All of that stuff lends itself better to added power, which I'm definitely going to be putting into this thing. So my recommendation, go big or go home. In fact, you can be able to use my code LexDFox50 on this exact bike at Ionic Moto's website for an extra $50 off. But if you still want to go the cheap route or think that 48 volts is plenty for you, no worries. You can use my other code LexDFox for this very bike on E-Moto's website for 8% off. You see that? Either way, I got you. And now it's time to do the thing that I've been hinting at forever, which is finally upgrading this bike to see what I can really get out of that. So you're definitely gonna wanna subscribe and stick around to see what I have. I got plans.
So is it 48 or 72? The bottom line is get even. You know what to do.